constructive criticism from love, right? They'll say, you kind of missed this, you missed that, you made this mistake. And it's like, gee, thanks, Ma. Where's the praise? Well done on getting on stage, but it's said with the intention that you'll be better the next time. Just the execution needs a little bit of polish.
So, speaking of learning how to deal with people who are happy to offend you. Welcome to Happy to Offend You. Life guarantees that somebody's going to be offended by anything that you do. In fact, somebody right now is offended by life itself, but they don't have to be. This show guarantees that someone is going to be liberated from being offended by somebody else's offensive behavior. What? Yes, we said it. This show sets out to prove not only how to be liberated from being offended, and also how to be happy to offend. So if you're already offended, welcome to the show. And here's your host, the very offensive, Michelle Nedelec. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I am super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, Fern. Fern, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled.
We have the very offensive and adorable Fern Chan. So give us a highlight of who you are and what you do for business. Let's start there.
Well, I'm an author, educator, and speaker, as you can see. I'm not sure if this is on video as well, but I wrote a book called How to Not Suck at Presentations. And basically, I help people not suck at presenting. And, that kind of offends people if you come right out and say, you kind of suck at presenting. Or not everybody would be so willing to come and say, yeah, I kind of suck at this and I need help. So kind of takes the sting out a little bit. It's like, not suck at doing something, right? So that's what I do. I help people just, become better presenters because in all honesty, nobody likes to listen to a boring presenter and nobody stays awake for boring presentations.
I think boring presentations offend people more than being told they suck. I don't know. There's a catch-22 there.
That's true, right? But you wouldn't be boring if you didn't suck to begin with, right?
So let's back up the bus a bit. How did you get into teaching people how to do presentations?
So I do a lot of it as part of my current day job. So it's doing a lot of training and also doing very intensive kind of training that I really need to make sure that my audience received the message. But if they were falling asleep and they're not actually learning anything, and this is work that potentially could save somebody's lives, I'm like, step up with people. If you don't do this, someone could get hurt. So it's like, I'm going to have to step up my game. So I came to realize like something's got to change. It can't be just death by PowerPoint because there's a lot of bullet points and they're popping everybody off left and right and leaving my audience asleep. So I thought, you know what? I got to do a better job. And so I fine-tune my process. And then I also do a lot of speaking at conferences. And then also, seeing a lot of these speakers who have so much expert knowledge, but then everyone's falling asleep. It's not so much sometimes the content, but how you're presenting, how you're delivering it, and just giving people too much. Right? We only have so much we can take in. And, I always like to liken it to like, our mind's capacity to take in information is like a martini glass. You're pouring a whole keg of beer on there. There's only so much I can take in. And after that, regardless of how good that beer is, all that juju is just falling on the floor. Wasted.
Absolutely. Wasted. We hate wasting beer and aptitude.
Right.
Well, and as you're talking about this, I'm thinking, well, it's kind of hilarious because you put a whole bunch of people into an auditorium and almost everything everybody does becomes offensive. So, that person that pulls out their laptop and they start typing shit and it's like, I'm typing notes. And it's like, not, you're sending emails and like, I can see you.
Yep. I call people out on that shit.
Right.
First of all, I tell them this is not your regular kind of presentation. So put those laptops away, put your phones away. Only, of course, you're going to be tweeting or saying how amazing this presentation is, then go ahead. But otherwise, I want you to pay attention and I'll tell you why. Right.
And that totally is up to the speaker. That's their job. You can't like sitting there nudging, elbowing somebody going, hey, can you pay attention? And then all of a sudden the speaker is boring as shit. And you're like, okay, I'm finding my laptop.
I know.
That is not good. It's totally up to the speaker to be able to control the room, to be able to create an environment with which everybody wants to pay attention and they want to put down their laptop. So it's not that they're being reprimanded going, hey, although I'm happy to do that too.
Well, I think it's a wasted opportunity, right? I mean, if they were there to begin with, that means they were there for a reason to hear you, right? This
Right.
is your captive audience. They're already there to listen to you for a reason. So make them stay, right? Make sure that they want to stay and not tune out and leave. Because sometimes, they try to look for the exit and the doors are damn shut and you can't go anywhere.
That's the difference between corporate and entrepreneurial. The
Right?
lunch and learns where everybody's dragged in and they look like kindergarten kids all tied to each other.
Yes. Yes. To be voluntold to be there.
Exactly. Those I think are the hardest ones to do a presentation for, although I have done them and I have teased them. It's like, okay, so for those of you who are handcuffed to your chair right now, go ahead and there should be a lock underneath there, just taped to your chair.
Oh, I like that. That's a great one.
Like, what? Who's handcuffed to their chairs? You mentioned handcuffs in any corporate event, and people will look and find out what you're talking about.
That's true. It's true. You have to have a bit of a patent interrupt, right? They're gonna think, oh, this is very sanguine and clean, and suddenly you say something, they go, did she just drop something like an F-bomb in this? I love doing training that allows me to do that, especially when it's sort of like negotiations and things like that in crisis, right? It's people are never calm when you're dealing with screamers and yellers.
Right. And I think to our point too, public speaking does require a attitude. You don't have to be as boisterous as I am. You don't have to be as outgoing and as jubilant as you are. I think people can do it with the church mouse personality. But you got to own that church mouse personality. Like you have to rock that and get people's attention with it. I mean, because I know if I saw a mouse in church, I would have a mouse has my attention. So it's not like they're not capable of getting it. They just can't be boring.
Yeah. I mean, and you can be very engaging even if you're an introvert, right? Not everybody has to be loud and boisterous and a limelight hog like I am. I mean, God, give me that mic at karaoke and forget it, you'll never get it back. But some people, but it could be a lot for someone, right? Where somebody who's more like, oh, I can relate to this person because she's got the same quiet demeanor like I do, right? That there you have resonance with other people. And did you know that Beyonce is like a huge introvert?
Oh,
Beyonce.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
But when she goes on and performs, she puts on like a persona, right? This is who I am when I'm performing, and this is what I give to the world. So it's kind of like this: if you are that shy person and you don't feel that confident, then put on that persona. When I'm up there, I am the Wonder Woman of presentations, or I'm the Yoda, whatever it is that you like to picture yourself as, and you go out there and you rock that personality that could be, different from who you are, or you could just feel so comfortable in your skin to step in. It's like, you know what, I am a little quiet, I am shy, but speak with passion, right? That's the thing. People want to see passion and interest, because if you're like this animated and excited, then they'll be leaning in. But if you're kind of monotone and like everything is like this, and I'm like, oh boy.
I think you have to be Deepak Chopra to be able to get away with that voice.
Well, yes, the late night FM DJ voice where you're like, oh, you could be
Oh,
talking about the
like
laundry list and I could still be listening to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah. If you have the DJ voice, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And I think in drama class, I think I noticed this the most. It was the introverts that as soon as you got them on stage, it was like, damn, and here we are, and all that jazz. And it was super fun to watch because the extroverts would clam up. The introverts were like, yes, my moment. So I think a lot of people don't realize that there is something magic about a hardwood floor that brings introverts to life. As soon as you get on that stage, maybe it's the elevation, I don't know. There's something magical that happens there. So if you are an introvert and you haven't had a chance to step on that stage, it really is, you don't know it until you're there. And then once you're there, it's like, oh yeah, I can do that. And don't be afraid to do that, because some people too, it's just that they haven't been given permission to go, you don't have to be yourself when you're on stage. Like whoever you are up until now, that door is shut and you get to reinvent yourself, whatever you want that to mean.
Yeah.
And that is fun.
It's a vehicle, right, to show who you are, showcase what you know. And back in the days when I was a burlesque performer, I will tell you this. Yeah, I know what. So the people who would get on stage, these are everyday women. We are all shapes of sizes, from itty bitty little titty club, which is me, to like double D. I'm like, please don't stand next to me, right? Some of these women were so shy and quiet. Like, you wouldn't imagine that these shy, quiet people are out here taking their clothes off and being these amazing stars and just bringing so much joy to other people just because of the performance, right? And so it's like you said, Michelle, like, the stage gives you that permission to put on something, because you now get to show off a trait or a skill set, to bring joy to the audience. The same thing when you present, right? It's like a performance. You got to rehearse. That's the thing. You got to rehearse. You got to know your shit. Don't go up there if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there is that. Well, and there's a lot of really fun ways to be able to. You may know what you're talking about and you get stage fright, and then you totally blank out and forget everything you were talking about. And that's why it becomes so important to be able to, again, something magical happens on stage. I don't know what it is that you want to be prepared for. And the practice does be able to help you with that, and being able to have, somebody staring back at you, and it's not just a bunch of stuffed animals on the couch. It's, having real people. Well, not ones that are paying you or have the potential to pay you, but before that, and getting people that'll give you real feedback. Not your mom. Your mom will never give you real feedback.
That's true. Although it depends on what kind of mom you have. Mine has
Fern's mom might give you
no shame. Yeah, I don't think tact falls into the Chinese vocabulary. Something, they just call it like it is,
My mom just wants you to feel better about the whole thing than she does. It's like, as awkward as it is, it was like,
constructive criticism from love, right? They'll say, you kind of missed this, you missed that, you made this mistake, and it's like, gee, thanks, ma. Where's the praise? Well done on getting on stage, but it's said with the intention that you'll be better the next time. Just the execution needs a little bit of polish.
So, speaking of learning how to deal with people who are happy to offend you, it might be worthy to get your mom coming up and doing some critiquing so that people can get used to hearing it in different ways.
Oh, she's brutal.
Because I think listening to critiques is hugely important. There are definitely nicer, easier ways to do it. Going, hey, next time try walking to the right instead of left, see what happens. That is a phenomenal way to give a critique, by the way, if you're charged with critiquing speakers. But I do think there is something valid in helping somebody who maybe they think they're good at presentations to have different types of critiques given, and just realizing that you don't have to take it personally. It's not a shot to you. The audience has shown up because they want to learn something, even if they were chained to the chairs, that they still want to be able to get something out of that time. And maybe it's a surprising time, right? Maybe they don't want to be there in the first place, but if you show up and you do something magical, then they're like, hey, that was totally a good use of my time, which is way better than going, I knew that was going to suck.
Then they'll come back for more. It's like, I learned so much from this speaker. Anytime the speaker speaks, I don't care what they speak about, I just show up because I got so much value, right? Yeah. Then you create raving fans, enthusiasts, groupies, right? If that's what you like. But again, if you're also tasked with doing this as part of your job, you want to sound competent, right? You also want to make sure that whoever your superiors may be, who might be coming to your presentations, because you have to do these corporate reports and those monthly sales, or however boring those KPIs may be, how can you speak in a way that's also convincing, compelling, that they also get your message without them going overwhelmed and, oh my God, that was so boring, right? Because if you can make that impression, they're going to say, I'm going to remember this person, and this is going to be somebody that we will keep in mind for potential promotions. Right? So it's such a strong skill to have. And also, if you're an entrepreneur, you got to sell and you have to do it in whatever capacity. How can you do it so you can tell your audience in a way that, wow, this can help me solve my problem, right? I really want to know what value this person can give me, because she did such a great presentation telling me about all the things that I actually remember I can use, and like, wow, that was a lot of value. What next? I want to know more, right? You always want them knowing more, leaning in to say, what can I do next? Have a call to action.
I love it. So when you're working with people, you have a strategy that you help them work with. Why don't you go into that, and we'll kind of
Oh, I know.
play with that.
So I'm a bit of a Star Wars fan. So I love doing a lot of things that use the Star Wars reference, but I think it's also a great way to put into a framework, right? So I have a formula that I use called C3PO, and the C stands for clarity. You need to have clarity on the three P's. So the three P's are your purpose. What is the purpose of your presentation, right? What is it for? What problem does it solve, right? So always think about, what is this supposed to do? And then that ties in very closely to your next P, which is the people. Who is this audience, right? What is it that interests them? What is it that they're there to hear, right? So, and it's always about them, not about you. So the people and your target audience, I know, right? It's like, oh my God, it's not about the 20 years of knowledge that I have, that I know, that I want to share. It's like, no, it's how the people can use that knowledge to their own advantage. We are like self-interested individuals, so we always want to know what's in it for me. So you have to think about, how are you presenting your information to your people that's of interest to them, that could be of self-interest to your audience. And then the last P is what I call your placement, or is it in person or is it virtual? Because that's going to affect how you present your information. And also, like, place and time. How much time have you been given to present your information? Just because you've been given an hour slot doesn't mean you're going to talk the whole hour. Right? You have to build in time to let people sink that information in, do a bit of back and forth, allow for tech issues, all the sort of things. So you can also allow for some space for people to like absorb information. So your three P's, and my final, and the O is only what they need to know. Right. So not what they like to know, not all the 20 things that you want them to know. Again, remember, martini glass worth of capacity. So only what they need to know. So if they want to know more, then you can say, would you like some more? Tell you what, here's my QR code, scan this, you can email me, whatever it is, right? So whatever that follow-up will be, this is a great way too to do a lead in for a lead magnet, right? Would you like to know more? Wonderful. Do this, give me your email and I'll send you this. And you've already gotten somebody's lead. So just a quick little formula, C3PO, as to how you can set up your presentation for success by using that formula.
Nice. I love it. And you can even get I found there's a little QR code image thing that you can go in, and you might even be able to find a little C3PO and put your QR code on it.
Oh my
Belly.
God, I would check it out. Yeah.
Right? That would be fun to end that with that. And then we can throw it up and they can go, oh, what? It works just like that. I'm totally going to do that. Well, I'm going to get you talking about something. I'm going to go and look it up.
Oh my God, I'm so going to do that. I have to
so
borrow that.
put the link that you want them to go to, any opt-in, I don't care. Put it in the chat. And by the time we're done this, we'll be able to put up the little C3PO chat.
Just like you have yours on your pot over there.
my little my little special something. We're just gonna pop that out.
I love it.
So I'm loving the purpose of people and the placement, and I think that a lot of people get going on the alliteration. I started realizing I was going to have a lot of P's in that sentence. So I have to change up my hand. I could, yes, I can think fast and I talk sometimes. I think a lot of people get stuck on, like, what's the purpose of my talk? My purpose in the talk is to get my annual report out, and we have to get the annual report out into the hands of people. Like, they can read your annual report.
That's it.
They do not need that. And you can have a QR code that says, hey, you want the full report? Go here. What they want is a debrief, and then what they want is something interesting that's going to be able to kind of stick in their brain. And I think a lot of this, like, people that do safety training, right? Another big one is, but they need to know everything. It's like, well, they need to know how to take action at the right time. What they really needed to know is when there's a CO2 leak, what's the first thing they have to do? And it's not phone somebody. I can assure you. Do not use electronics.
Find the leak. Stop the bleeding. You know, it's like it's that simple. I always tell people, like, no more than 3 things, because our brains can only take about 3 bits of information. Yep. Right. So, and I liken this to like Pop-Tart instructions. If you look at the side of, the Pop-Tarts, it tells you what are the 3 things you need to do. Eat this damn Pop-Tart. Open packet, put Pop-Tart in toaster, eat Pop-Tart. It's as simple as that. It sounds obvious, but you still give people those 3 steps and nothing more, right? So again, people can like, oh, and can take action. I can do those 3 things. Open packet, So it's the same thing, right? I know it sounds silly, but I challenge you to go look at your Pop-Tart instruction. They go, are there only 3 instructions? Seems obvious. But 3 things. No more than 3 things because our brains can't compute more than that.
Well, and it's fascinating to me that it really is kind of those 3 points, because we've tried and tested and true. 5 is way too many. 4 is a weird number to have to deal with. 2 is not enough.
Yeah.
It really is 3. And if you can hone it into 3, people can remember it and go by it. And a lot of, it was funny because it brings up, and it reminds me that the whole reason that phone numbers in North America are set up the way they are in 3-digit, 3-digit, 4-digit was so that people could remember them. Yeah. And funny enough, people had a hard enough time remembering 4 digits when it was 4 digits, but it was easier to remember the 7 because it was broken into 3 than 4.
Yeah, it's our brains chunk information like that, right? So it's like 3, and then 4, right? So I can do that last one. It's like squeezing in the extra bonus, right? Exactly. So you only have 3 things, but you want to put in that thing. It's like, you know what? I have a bonus. I have a little something else for you. But ask for permission before you share that. Because I think then people will be more willing to hear what you have rather than giving them too much. It's like, I've got one more thing, but I don't want to overwhelm you. But if you would like to hear more about it, can I share this with you? Get them to say yes. If they say yes, then give it to them.
Nice. Love that. It's a great way to do it. So I think we've covered academia. I don't know if we've covered academia. I know, because it was hilarious. So one of my favorite teachers in high school, believe it or not, grade 7, used to go on the board and he used to put up slides
transparencies
over transparencies.
Yeah.
What are the
and overhead transparency with the film? I remember those days.
And our job, he would read it, and our job was to rewrite it word for word in our books. And
rote learning, the worst.
Oh my God, it was the worst. But it was kind of hilarious, kind of fun. And I just learned to learn that way. But the other kids in the class, I'm looking around and they're doodling. This is so not working for any of them. I'm like, could you imagine how much more they would have learned had it just not been set up that way? Like,
I know.
Like, really, it just really didn't have to. You could have taken a highlighter and highlighted 3 different points on that page and been done, and we would have been like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Well, that's how they were taught to learn, right? And I think they underestimated or didn't anticipate how people now consume content. How did we all learn? Well, we're bombarded by so much digital distraction where we're seeing more visual things as we learn. So I am a huge visual storyteller when I present. So I think that's also very compelling when you use an image to tell a story. And then that's your show and tell, right? So I don't have to put 20 bullet points up there. I'm going to show you an image that will encapsulate what this idea is. I'm going to talk about it. So you're going to see this picture and then the words will come in and you're going to go, oh, yes. But again, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words, but nobody needs to see them 1,000 words on the slide.
Speaking of stories, give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients, of kind of what they sounded like and how they came across beforehand, and then what it was like after working with you.
Well, this is a really new, recent client of mine, and she attended one of my sessions, and she was like, oh my God, Fern, I didn't know I was doing all these death by PowerPoint things. I was talking to the slide. And so that night, she actually was doing a live, like a Facebook Live, just to talk about her product herself. And so she's like, I switched out all my bullet points. I used images instead. And, she said people were leaning in. They were like more intrigued because they wanted to know what that image was telling them. Then she could talk, rather than before she could see them all trying to read, right? They were just reading. And so it's like, wow, this is not a read along. So the fact that I shared with her just a simple thing, right? To swap out whatever bullet points that you have and put a compelling image or something that you can talk along. And then they ask questions. And then she put in a call to action. So I said, don't forget, at the end of it, tell them what you want. Right? Tell your audience what you want them to do. right? Pop-tart instructions. You need to give them that bridge to take action, because all that information is great, but then what do you want them to do with this information? So she put it in there. Then she got these people to like reach out to her. And now she's like, growing a class. So that's like a great success story, right? Before she'd maybe get like one or two. Nobody would say anything because they were like reading. But that interaction also gave her so much more confidence to just also interact with her audience. So I think that shows you like how compelling that can be. Rather than reading, she could just pop up an image and tell a story, or what's behind this image, right? That moves a person.
Nice. Love it. Well, and I find too in my presentation, a lot of people are like, oh, don't use words, use just images.
No,
if you
can use some
can't
words.
articulate your words, I want to see that word on the screen. Otherwise, I will lose my mind going, what the hell is he saying? What is that word that he keeps saying? Like, especially if it's new information. Like if you're using something like Spotify, a lot of people in the world of shopping know what Spotify is, but some people aren't going to know what it is. And you want to have that word up on the screen so that I know it, so that I'm not distracted for the entire presentation going, what the hell is that word? Because then I just become annoying to everybody around me going, what the hell is he saying?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is, I'm not saying don't know words at all. I'm just saying not as many. I use one word.
Yeah, you don't want the whole thing like,
but especially what you were saying, right? Like, how do you clarify certain words that might be new vocabulary? It's like, well, or if you're gonna put your website link up there, Spotify, did she say Spotify or Shopify, right? Which one was it? So again, what do people hear and go, oh, that's how you spell it? What, that might be unique spellings. You're in Canada, there's OUs and in your spellings, and then there's none in the United States.
Yeah, weird accents. Oftentimes Americans don't understand the thing I'm saying. I just
I think they understand a lot easier than if you were from Australia or New Zealand or South Africa. And then they have no idea what you're saying. Or if you're Welsh.
Right. Oh, awesome. And oftentimes I will use, if there's something that I'm trying to say, hey, this is really complicated, I will bombard the screen with words and just go, yeah, nobody understands this. Nobody. If you do, you are the exception, not the rule. Make this go away. Right. So it's using it in a way that gets people's attention, breaks up the monotony, the humor, have a little fun with it.
Data I find is the worst. Oh, Michelle, data is like, this is what puts people on the suck meter, right? It's like, tell me. The suck meter is an all-time high with data presentation, because it's just so much coming at you with bar graphs and charts. Data can be very compelling, but it's like how you presenting it in a way that makes me understand it, rather than go, what the fuck am I looking at? And I buy. Like, oh, it's too much effort for me to decipher what this means.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even text. I mean, techies love information. Don't get me wrong. Techies love information. They are, one of the jokes. Oh, do you have a Seymour in your class? And if you've ever read on a website and then it says see more, click on it. Certain people always click on Seymour, and then they got a nickname. And it was funny because, and Brad, my partner, is an engineer. I love to tease him to death. If there's something to read, he wants to read it so bad. If there's a map or a sign going for a walk in a park, he's like a magnet. Straight over there. Gotta go read
goes to the audience, right? If he's the tech guy speaking to other techies where they're all talking tech talk, that's their audience. That's their people. They might understand all. Yeah, that's their jam.
But if you get one person in that audience that's not in that jam, you still want to explain shit.
Yeah, it's really true. It's like, just because I think I know what APEC means, Asia Pacific Economic Conference, somebody might think it's the annual pie eating contest, So it's like, we don't take for granted what acronyms could mean, because APEC means one thing to me, means something else to you.
Right? Or people will be sitting there Googling it and trying to figure out what it is, and there's 26 different ones, and they're like, okay, I'm gone. I have no idea what you're talking about. And you do not want that rotten apple in your audience, because they're the ones that sit and distract everybody else, and then you become offended. Paying attention to you, which again all comes back to the person on the stage has an obligation to control the room and Sometimes that's fun, sometimes it's intimidating, but it's not nearly as hard as you think it is. You
No,
just
it's
have to
not.
not suck.
And here's another P alliteration for you that I like to instill in with my coaching students is proper preparation prevents poor performance. So proper preparation prevents poor performance. Say that 5 times without getting tongue-tied, right? You need a lot of preparation for that.
Proper preparation.
So yeah, so you got to have to prepare, right? Proper preparation prevents poor performance. You got to know what you say. You got to prepare. You got to rehearse, so that you can, make sure that if the audience isn't reading you, if you don't getting the response, something's not working, what can you tweak at that moment? Or if tech goes wrong, there's always tech issues.
Tech happens.
Stage
tech happens.
The slide deck just goes poof, gone. I'm like, tech guy, where did you go? And then you're gonna have to just ad lib or talk from your knowledge, right? It's like, okay, well, the tech gods are not with us today, so let me just tell you what I can do with you today, right? And then you just kind of speak for your heart, speak from your knowledge in a place of great authenticity, because you are the subject matter expert. And that's the one thing too, right? You're on stage for a very specific reason. You wouldn't be up there if you didn't know your shit to begin with. So lean into that, own it, own that superpower that you had, that you know this. And then if everything else should fail, how can you still impart this knowledge in a way like you're having a conversation with your mom? How are you going to explain this to your mom? Right? The mom test is always a good one. Like, or telling your best friend over cocktails or a cup of tea, you know what? I have this great idea, or I'm working on this thing. And then you just talk about your idea, right? What is it that you were trying to tell in your presentation?
I love it. So when it comes to being offensive, have you ever tipped the apple cart in your industry and offended your peers?
Yes. Well, sometimes it's the subject matter that I am talking about that's offensive. But it's like, well, that's why you're here. That's why you need to learn this. Or sometimes it's just like, well, I'm teaching you a skill because you need to, improve it because you suck. Oh, language. I'm like, well, but I got you to pay attention.
This is definitely the benefit to not having to report to HR.
Yeah.
We get to say things nobody else gets to say.
That's true, right? And I mean, again, know your audience. Know your audience.
You don't really want to get reported to HR, you say.
No. So I didn't realize. So I did when I first wrote my book about this, somebody read it and it's like, oh, when I first saw the title itself offended me because she thought it was rude. It was really obtuse. It wasn't her own. It wasn't in her vocabulary to use language like this. So it's kind of like, it's the finger in your eye kind of. I'm pointing out, a deficiency. So she saw the big word suck. She goes, oh, so in and of itself, she goes, but she forced herself to read the book, and now she uses some of the same techniques in
now it's all dog-eared.
It's
a reference manual.
Using this in Sunday school. Hallelujah. From sinner to saint, I'll take it.
Yeah. That's hilarious. So when you're working with somebody, what would you say offends you most of the things that they do? Rant the list. Give me the rant.
Reading from the slides, right? So I think that if they hadn't gone through my coaching program or read my book or done my course, right, and they would just like, if I had to sit in somebody else's presentation and it was like a straight through read from the slide verbatim. That one is a big one, right? But I think just overwhelm of information is a second thing too. It's like you gave me, that's way too much. And then they have their nerve to say, oh, sorry to be, to kill you with death by PowerPoint. I'm like, you did that at slide 2.
It's not death by 1,000 cuts. It's like, page 2, I was dead.
I was that. It's like, how is this guy a keynote speaker? He said, I have 20 things to share with you. And we were 40 minutes in and we were at the eight bullet point. I thought, oh my God, can somebody open the door so I can escape? I was wriggling in my chair. I was so tempted to give him a copy of my book. But then again, it's like, not about me. But yeah, so I think not having an awareness about how you are presenting your information and not understanding your audience. That one kills me a little bit. It's like, know your audience, right? So that we can respond. So we want to know.
I love it. So there are a few stumbling blocks. So say somebody can self-identify in this and go, okay, I get it. I suck. Some people might not be able to,
Mhm.
to self-identify. Do you have any tools, tricks, opt-ins that people might be able to use to understand where they're at in that?
Well, absolutely. So if you go to my website at fernchan.com, oh, right there,
Yep.
you can take a quiz to find out where you are on the suck meter. So I have a suck meter that assesses where you fall on this meter, right? How well you are, how well you present. And so it's just a guide to say, hey, maybe you are already a rock star. Wonderful. Let's take you to the next level, right? Maybe you're a rising star. Oh, you do something quite well, and you could just, do a few more things to get you to that rock star status. You could be a falling star where you're just like shooting from the hip and, a bit renegade, or all the way at the end of the I suck, you just Death Star mode. Death Star mode. We oh, the no life. So I have a quiz that, it's a fun quiz. It just assesses where you are. What tools do you use? Are you comfortable doing certain things? Just so it's a bit of awareness, right? And listen, there's always room for improvement. I used to suck at presentations myself. I had the awareness. Take a video of yourself the next time you present. I think that is just so eye-opening because you see your body
So
language,
eye-opening. Trust me, you will not like that the first time you do it.
hear yourself, you go,
Or the
do I
20th.
really sound like that? Oh God, I sound terrible. You don't know how many ums and ahs you say, what sort of like unconscious body language that you have, right? What are your tells when you're nervous? So there are certain things, but these days I'm like, even if I fumble, I'm like, oops, sorry, tripped over my own words. I just, move right ahead,
Am I
right?
supposed to be able to control this thing?
Right. Yeah. So, oops. Well, sometimes I just go, oh, my mind just went blank. Give me a second while I just walk back a little bit and retrace my steps and come back, and it'll come back to me, right? So it's okay. Have fun with the audience
I
because
totally want to redo your suck meter though. I think it should go from, wow, you suck in the good way that people like.
oh well, that's
All
a
the way
different kind
down
of
to
suck
you're
meter.
sucking in the bad way.
I know, right? That is true. That I think needs to be, we're gonna pop that into your blue pill episode.
Exactly. Everybody likes a good lollipop.
They sure do.
That's good suck meter. Lollipop all the way to the bad
Yes,
side.
yes.
Yeah, we got to redo that one, I think. That's just me because, I'm happy to offend
I know
people.
the R18 version.
Exactly.
Is
Hilarious.
it a good suck or a bad suck, right?
Right?
Mm.
It's totally true. It's true. So I get to ask you, at what point in life did you know that you were a special kind of crazy to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
Um, I've always dabbled. I've always dabbled a little
You're a
bit.
dabbling entrepreneur. I like that.
Yeah, well, but now I'm like at a point in my life where it's like, oh no, I think I can bet on myself and go all in. So my entrepreneur journey just started last February.
What?
Yep. So it's
You're
like,
just
okay,
a baby. That's so cute.
I know, but baby's not afraid to hustle because listen, like, because you want to suck in a good way, right? So hey,
Exactly.
but learn, right? It's like, oh my God, that totally sucked. How can I learn from that sucky experience and then fail forward and then go, oh, I can do it better next time. So
nice.
Yeah.
I love it. So in your very, what I'm going to call a short journey of entrepreneurialness, do you have the blooper run yet?
Oh, that's a good do I have a
Any
blooper?
episodes of the blooper run that you can share with us?
Oh, I have that live one where the tech went down. I was like on the main stage. I'm in a hotel ballroom. I'm up there, and then like hit the video and like nothing. I'm like, tech guy, where are you? He leaves the damn ballroom. He's just nowhere to be seen. I have all these eyes looking at me. I'm standing up on stage, and you get those sweaty pits, and you're like, okay, you know what? Let's just move on. I'll send you the video later. I'm cussing the stupid tech guy. I'm like, what? No, I'm on the ball. Where was this guy? So no, I have that on video, but I'm like, it's like, how do you roll with the punches, right? So yeah, that's one big tech fail.
Yeah. As a speaker, I think it's very important to learn to roll with the punches because they're going to be.
Yeah. Well, and I think this helps too, in all the years that I've also been a performer. So, sometimes the pasty just pops off and it's like, oops, punches. The show's gonna go on.
We just up leveled the burlesque show.
You paid money to be here, so it's okay.
Exactly. Didn't even have to pay extra. It was awesome. Everybody's gonna be going and checking out our Facebooks now and saying, you got to go back about 10 years on mine. I don't know. Facebook will even let you go back that far now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fern, you've been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
I know. You know, the last time you asked me something, I gotta work on my outro.
Right.
I know. So last words, just be the presenter that everyone wants to hear. Nobody wants to listen to boring. Nobody wants to be that boring presenter, but you can absolutely be magical by being yourself and making sure you can engage your audience. And just remember, right? Have fun yourself. If you have fun, the audience will have fun.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate your time and I know how valuable it is.
Thanks for having me, Michelle. It's been a
Thank you.
blast.
Yay, it has been. Peeps, thank you for being here. We are, as you know, happy to offend you and we'd love to do it again. So subscribe to the show, share it with your friends, drag them along, kicking and screaming. We're good with it. They'll love us by the end. Have an awesome one.